What do you do as a guardian spirit of an enchanted forest when your forest begins to become overgrown with vegetation and trees and wildlife? The answer is you send in one of your Kodama to clean up everything. Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to do an overview and a setup for Kokoro, Avenue of the Kodama. Kokoro can be played with 1 to 8 players, so you can play it solo or you can play it with up to 8 players. And the entire idea of this game is that you take on the role of a Kodama. The Kodama have been chosen by the guardian spirits of the forest in order to clean up the pathways that lead to the sanctuaries, because the sanctuaries are really important. There need to be pathways to be able to get to them so that they can, I think give offerings to the guardian spirits. And you can't get to those sanctuaries unless the path is clear. So your job as a Kodama is to make sure that that path is clear. You are clearing the forest, you are clearing all of the vegetation, you're clearing all the bugs and everything away from those paths so that there is a more or less straight shot to those sanctuaries. Now, the setup for the solo and multiplayer versions of this game are exactly the same. The only difference is that when you're playing it solo versus multiplayer, you're just playing against yourself. You are just trying to see if you can get your score higher and higher in each consecutive game that you play. That is the only difference. You are playing the game in exactly the same way. So Kokoro is a very fun game. It's a very short game. It only takes about 20 minutes, but it has a lot of replayability to it because there are different things because of the way that the path system works. There are a lot of different things that can happen, a lot of different pathways that can open up for you. And so it gives it quite a bit of replayability, as well as adding in some of the additional rules that can change the way the game is played. So with that, let's get into the setup. Alright, like I said, Kokoro is a very simple game. There's not much to it. Literally everything you see on the table right here is everything that comes in the box. And this is everything that you need to play. You will have a stack of player boards here, which are two-sided. There's a blue side and a red side. The red side is used for the additional rules, which I will get into later. And you have your sanctuary cards here, and you have your path cards, and you have your decree cards. And up here you'll have your 10-sided die, and you will have 1 dry erase marker per player. And then your rulebook here. And your rulebook is literally, that's all your rulebook is just 4 pages on this little thing. So the rules are very concise. There's not much going on here. So let's start by showing you a setup of just a normal game without any additional rules, and then I'll show you the one with the additional rules, which only changes slightly. So for the regular setup, we do not need this, and we do not need these. We only need the sanctuary cards, the path cards, and you need 1 board for however many players are participating. So let's say that Anna and I are going to play together, so we have 2 boards, 1 for each of us. Fun fact, Anna has not played this game yet as of recording this. So once you give 1 of those to each player, then you also give each player a dry erase marker. Then you would shuffle up your, the oldest player would be the one to go first, and whoever the oldest player is also would shuffle up your path cards. Now your path cards literally show you, each have a number on them, and they each show you a different path, a different shape path. And some of them look like this, where it has your Kodama down here, and it has kind of some of the forest around him. And some of them are gold, like this, and it has your Kodama doing a handstand. One-handed handstand, that's kind of impressive. And I will get into the difference of those in just a second. Then you have the sanctuary cards. These just have the letters that correspond to each sanctuary. Now, if we look at the player board, you will have sanctuaries in different locations, each marked by their letter. Then you have your guardian spirits up in each corner here. The objective here is to connect paths to these sanctuaries, and you want to connect these sanctuaries to as many of these flowers and caterpillars on these spaces as possible. Here's the catch, though. You have your round marker over here, where you would write whatever the letter corresponding to the sanctuary you're going towards. You would have the letter of that one written here, and then you would have a score next to it. In your next round, if this score is lower than this score here, then you actually don't score any points. So once you reach the end of 5 rounds, having scored all of those, then you would add up all of those, and you would add up any of your guardian points. And then in the case of using the additional rules, you would add up any decree points here. You would take any negative points that you've accrued in different ways that we'll get into in a second. And then your total score would be down here. And then whoever has the highest score wins the favor of the 2 guardians here. By the way, your sanctuary cards would also need to be shuffled by the same person that shuffled the past. So both of these need to be shuffled and just placed onto the table, like so. So the oldest player is the caller. Now the caller begins each round by placing the top card of the sanctuary deck here. We're going to place that face up in the sanctuary discard pile. So we're going to flip this guy over like this. So this means that we are going to score sanctuary B in this round. So on your player board here, you would write a B over in that yellow spot there. After that, the caller is going to draw the top card of the path deck and announce the number shown. And each number corresponds to a certain path segment as shown on the card's reference. So down here at the bottom, it'll show, this is like just in case somebody can't see the card, because you're going to flip this over. So in this case, it's a 2, and you're going to flip this over and you're going to put it in like the discard pile like so. But if not everybody can see that, you would say, oh, it's a number 2, and they can look down here and they can see, oh, it's this path here. So this is the shape of path that I have to draw. So at this point, each player has two things that they can do. They can either draw a path, so they can draw this corresponding path, which is a 90-degree down and to the right, or they can look at the next sanctuary card, so that they can try to start heading towards the next sanctuary and maybe connect things, and you know, because if they already have a fair amount of features here, that's what these are called, these are features, so if they already have a fair amount of features, the flowers and the caterpillars, connected to the current sanctuary, they can start working on the next one before the next one is actually drawn, before the end of the round. So when you draw a path, let me grab the marker here. So when you draw a path, you can only draw in a space on your player sheet here that does not already have a path drawn on it. So once you draw a path on a card, that's done. And you can't rotate it or anything like that. It has to be exactly how this looks here. So in this case, we're going for B here. So with this kind of path, I would make it go, let's see, I would probably attach it here. We're gonna go like this. So it'd be like that. So you draw it kind of in the middle there. That's generally how you draw it, and that's the way that it'll show you in the rule book as well. There you go. So now, once everybody has drawn their path, then the next card is drawn after that. So we flip this over, it's a number 1. Okay. So that goes down and to the left. So I could go ahead and draw this, you know, kind of, I could kind of draw this over here. Or, you know, I already have one connected here. If I don't really want to get any more, I could also look at the next sanctuary card and use that as my action. So let's go and do that. So it's going to be D. Okay. So then that would just go back on the top here. So now I know that this is going to be the next sanctuary that we go to. So I can plan my strategy around that. Each game has a set of, or each round has a set of turns. So you have 5 rounds in the entire game, and each round will end when you draw, oh look at that, a gold card. So you would draw that path, and then you would score whatever had the ability to score. In this case, I'm not going to be able to score anything. It's going to be a 0, because in order to score your sanctuary here, there has to be a path actually going through the sanctuary space. So in this case, there's a feature connected here, but it's not connected to the sanctuary. And this one only goes to the ends of its respective tiles. So that means that this would score 0. So that means in the next round, when the D comes up, I just have to score higher than a 0, which in theory should be pretty easy to do. And you repeat these steps until the game is over. Now, as you're going, you can also try to connect the features, like the caterpillars and the flowers. You can try to connect them to their respective guardians. So you could have a path going through the guardian like this, and then maybe the path goes down here. So now that caterpillar is attached to the guardian spirit over like the bugs or whatever. I don't know if she's a wildlife spirit or what. And the same down here with the lion spirit of the forest. You know, if we had a path here, here, and then straight down here, then there's one attached to him. Now, at the end of your 5 rounds, you're going to add up all of these scores here, and you're going to score these 2 here. So, however, so in this case I have 1 and 1 attached to each of them, so it would be a 1 and a 1. We don't worry about this in the version that we're playing, that this is. Then you would have your total, so in this case, because I didn't actually write down everything, it would just be 2. And then for each sanctuary that did not score, which in this case, this one did not score, you would lose 5 points. So you want to make sure that each of your sanctuaries scores. And that is literally all there is to the basic version of Kodama without the additional rules. That's it. Now, the additional rules don't really make anything all that much more complicated. All that they do is you would flip this over to the pink side. And this would be this. There's 2 versions of the additional rules. One is called one has the random initial guardian setup, in which case you would take your 10-sided die here and you would roll that, and it's, you know, a 10. So one of the guardians would start on the number 10 right here, and you would do, I believe the C comes first. Yes, it would be a C for caterpillar. So there'd be a C up there, and then you would roll this again, and it's an 8. So then there would be an F over here. Now, that means that those are where your spirits are. So you can play with that rule, which just changes the location of your guardians. And then there's also another additional rule set where you can use decree cards. Now, decree cards, at the beginning of the game, the caller, whoever is the first player, would shuffle these up as well. And they're going to draw one of these decree cards at the beginning of the game. And the card is going to introduce a special rule for all players to follow during that game. So in this case, it's winding path. During the game, players may use may use the number 1 paths as the number 2 paths and vice versa, so you can flip-flop those. And there's other ones as well, so there's a twisting road, so you can may use 3 paths and 4 paths as each other. And tranquility, oof, come on, focus. Tranquility. At the end of the game, each player scores 2 points for each space with no caterpillars and no flowers connected to at least 1 guardian by a path. So some of them are just mess with the paths or give you different options for the paths. Some of them will add score to your score at the end of the game. And you would only use one of these in the course of the game. So at the very beginning of the game, you'd flip one over, and that's the one for all 5 rounds. That is this reclaim in this case. Would be the decree that you use through the entirety of those 5 rounds. And then when you play the next game, you could draw another one. If you are playing on the pink side of the board, the cards with the pink background, or red, or whatever you want to call it, can only be played on that red background, or that red side. The blue ones can be played on either side. So if you're playing on the red side, you can go ahead and have all of these in the deck. But if you're playing on the blue side, you would actually just completely take out these red ones, which I think there's only these 3. Yeah, it's just these 3. Yep. So you would just take those 3 out, and you would only worry about these if you're playing on the blue side. All right, and that is literally everything about Kokoro. That's a regular game as well as a game with both of the additional rule variants. Now, like I said, the solo version of the game plays exactly the same as a regular game. And you can use the decrees if you want to. And then you would just record your, your top score down here, and you can keep track of what your scores are over the course of however many games you decide to play, and see if you can get any better. But other than that, that is the entirety of Kokoro. So that was the setup for Kokoro, Avenue of the Kodama. Like I said, it is a very fun game. It is very quick to play. It is very easy to pick up. The rules are very concise. They're easy to understand. So you could probably pick this up and be playing it and have finished a few rounds of it within the first hour of owning the game. It is that quick. So hopefully I will be able to give you a playthrough of Kokoro as well as Lucidity, which I showed you last week, here before too long. But until then, I want to thank you guys for joining me this week, and I hope that I will see you all again next week. But until then, let's get out there and play some games.